Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe.
Should Hulk Hogan return to WWE? I'm Ollie Davis. This is Luke Owen. Welcome to WrestleRamble, where we're already quite scared about approaching such a sensitive and serious topic. So bear with us. We're going to say stupid stuff.
I would also say as well, it's almost a silly title because should Hulk Hogan return? I mean, he already has.
Yes. But should it have happened?
Well, that's it. It should have rather than should he return. Because he already has, yes.
Yeah, should he have returned in the first place? Not will he return? Because that one's been answered for us.
Pretty much, yeah.
But
or
this one...
It's a very, very out-of-date title.
Yeah, but the more moral should Hulk Hogan return to WWE
exactly.
is the far more complex thing. I don't like just to give you don't in the comments. Just try and be civil here. I know everyone's got strong opinions on this, but let's be honest. It's too confusing and morally complex to really come down hard on either side. So just hear everybody out and don't defend your own position too rabidly.
Yes, that's the real key to this, is that, feel free to leave your thoughts, but if someone says, I disagree, don't be like, well, you're clearly an idiot.
Yeah, because, there's going to be... I don't think we're going to find a consensus here.
No.
Or on the channel comments.
Absolutely.
So, here's the background. Hulk Hogan... Well, oh man, this is a long one. So about over a decade ago...
It's so funny. So recently, I was at a garden party for a friend's birthday, and someone mentioned it then. It was like, is Hulk Hogan still wrestling? And I went, oh no, I'll tell you what it was. It was because we were talking about they're doing a film about the Gorka trial with Hulk Hogan. They're doing
like a fictionalized version.
a fictionalized version of it. So they got the Hogan trial, and someone said, oh, what was that? And then I started to talk about the story, and I sort of thought, oh, this is a really long story. And also, if you're not within the wrestling bubble, a really weird story.
It's fascinating, though, because it really does get to the core of what is a wrestling character.
Oh, yeah.
And there is now a legal precedent set for what you say in character as a wrestling persona and what you say as your real life identity, most perfectly encaptured by arguably my favourite story I've ever had to write. Hulk Hogan has a 12-inch penis. Terry Bollea does not have a 12-inch penis. The man had to admit that under oath.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. And if we're gonna give you a bit of a brief history of this topic, but if you really want to get into this, there's an awesome documentary called Nobody Speak, I believe it's called.
Yeah.
And that really dives into it. And
you can find it on Netflix.
It's on Netflix. It's a wonderful documentary, but the fictionalized movie they're doing is based on that documentary.
And it's all about I can't remember the PayPal. Is it PayPal's founder, Peter Thiel? Peter Thiel is the guy who sort of funded Hulk Hogan's case against Gorka. Gorka were the people who put the sex tape out there in the first place, and Hulk Hogan sued them. But during the whole court case thing, these comments were leaked that he made on the sex tape, and these are the racist comments that were made. So the racist comments were made over a decade ago, I believe.
2008, I believe it was.
But they came out as part of this trial that Peter Thiel was funding, reportedly, allegedly, to get back at Gorka because Gorka initially exposed his homosexuality. Really just crazy, because otherwise Hulk Hogan, I don't think, would have had the money to have fought it in this degree.
And that's what the documentary kind of focuses on. It's these sort of rich people buying up newspapers so they don't print stories about them.
Yeah.
It's
so
kind of the destruction of free press.
That's how high up this debate's going. So there's no way we can give you a definitive answer here. We're not going to say we have the answers. We're just as confused.
We're two idiots.
Everyone's confused, really. Anyone who says that they know what Brexit is just don't trust them. Don't trust them, because
absolutely not.
Either side of the political spectrum. If someone says on the right, I don't know what Brexit is either, I'm like, let's have a dialogue, man. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what Scooby-Doo. You're my friend. Let's have a pint.
Who really knows what's going on?
Yeah, but the people on either side, right or left, who say, yeah, this is Brexit. I'm like, no, you've lost me, because you don't know that.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Let's be honest. I mean, if the people who are actually trying to arrange Brexit don't know what it is, then no one knows what it is.
If Danny Dyer is confused about Brexit, how can us mere mortals understand the concept? Anyway, we're getting away from the concept. Jesus, this is tough. So, Hulk Hogan, those comments came out, and that was the big controversy. Understandably so, he said some really quite deplorable things. But the other side of it is but he made those in, when he didn't think he was being filmed. I say horrible things all the time just to get a laugh. I wouldn't like to be held responsible for I know, but he did say them. So it's...
Well, yeah, I mean, it's Hogan's defense has always been, well, they're words that I grew up with, that we have always just used, so I've never seen the problem using them. And now he's saying, but those were wrong words to say. He has been educated. And this is where the other side of the coin comes in. He was wrong to say it. Flip side of that is that, yes, but he is doing charity work and he is educating himself. He's doing X, Y, and Z to realise that what he said was wrong and why it was wrong. And that's why he's been now let back into the fold because of all this charity work. And they're like, he's learned his lesson, X, Y, and Z. 3 years, I believe, is the minimum sentence for racism. So it's fine. He's allowed back into the company now. And he's gone around. He's apologised for what he said. Problem with that comes, I feel, is that what Hogan essentially said was, if you're going to say those words, make sure you're not being recorded. And that was sort of what he was apologising for, kind of realising that he doesn't... that to me suggested he didn't know what he was apologising for. And Titus O'Neil brought that up in his statement about it.
So, I mean, I've heard... So right, okay. So that thing happened. WWE cut all ties with Hulk Hogan. This is back in 2015. July 2015, no less. So it's actually to the month. They remove him from the Hall of Fame, which doesn't mean anything.
It means nothing.
It's just a PR move. They took the stuff down from WWE shop. That means something.
That's
they actually
money,
took
brother.
away money. That's what speaks to Vince McMahon. But now at Extreme Rules, last Sunday, before the show, all WWE talent was told to be there for this meeting, even if you weren't booked on the show. And this is from James Ellsworth, who recounted the meeting on his Durcast podcast. And
He's got a podcast.
Everyone's got a podcast.
I mean, everyone's
Luke.
got a podcast.
If we've
these
got a
days.
podcast,
Hey,
everyone's got a podcast. And apparently Triple H comes out. He opens the meeting. He says, "It's like you've got to be wary of social media and be careful of stuff because you never know when you're being recorded."
So
which is great advice. And Hulk Hogan then comes out and apologizes, and apologizing for genuinely saying stuff, and apparently he also says a bit of echoing what Triple H said. To be honest, I see those. I wasn't there at the meeting, but from just hearing these sides of things, you can't. Those are not mutually exclusive. It's very unfortunate from a narrative perspective that Triple H reportedly decided to have that talk, when that whole thing should have really been about just making amends. Ellsworth, at least, said he felt like the Hulk Hogan's apology was sincere, but this is a man who's lied quite a lot. Just through, he once claimed to have wrestled 400 days in a year.
Hulk Hogan once claimed that he was going to be the bass player for Metallica after Cliff Burton died, but he thought he was the one that turned them down. Actually, one of my other favourite ones is that he claimed that a company approached him about releasing a grill, and he said no, and their second choice was George Foreman.
I worked with someone who interviewed Hogan. Hogan blank-faced said, I didn't know Bret Hart had a book. It was I think the question was about what Bret said about Hulk. I can't remember what those comments were. And Hulk Hogan was asked about it. He said, I didn't even know he had a book. Who has a review quote in Bret Hart's book? Hulk Hogan. So that's a sort of indirect experience I've had with Hogan's problems with the truth. Anyway, so that all happens. And
it's all the work, brother.
It sort of kicks off. There's a rumour, which really has since been discredited. It originally came from Barn Burners podcast with Brad Shepard and John Fisher, I think his name is. I've not heard of him before, but of course Shepard has broken quite a lot of stuff over the last 9 months. And Mark Henry came out and said, well, there's a 50-50 reaction. Brad Shepard says, actually, it's more like 80-20 against, especially amongst the black members of the main roster. And you can see it by it's fascinating for a company that everyone walks on eggshells backstage, so we hear. Maybe not so much in the last year, but definitely in recent memory. And you never want to talk out against the company. You never want to be seen as going against Vince McMahon, because they'll just fire you sometimes. And
Titus O'Neil was suspended for grabbing his arm.
Yeah. But in the last couple of days, New Day have posted a very lengthy statement, effectively saying, we totally get why Hogan's in the Hall of Fame, because he's one of the most famous wrestlers that ever lived, essentially. However, on a personal level, we're just not going to deal with him.
Yeah.
Which which heavily implies they're not happy about it. Titus O'Neil has said something very similar, but more in depth of denying the rumour that he stormed out of the meeting. That seems completely false, actually. And Sasha Banks liked Titus O'Neil's statement. So it kind of lumps them all together.
And there was also those rumours that Titus was liking comments on Instagram.
Yes,
but we couldn't verify that, could we? Or rather, you were searching for it.
Well, it was on Reddit, and it was just an image that someone posted. It's very hard to track down who's liked an Instagram post. So I was just just take it with a pinch of salt. This is what someone has seen and claims to be true, but it could easily be doctored. Mm-hmm. But looking at the other things, maybe not.
Yes, absolutely.
So it seems like and I believe Dave Meltzer on the Wrestling Observer Radio said today, which is Thursday, we're recording this, that a lot of people were unhappy. He was surprised at how many people were unhappy backstage. I'm sure there'll be more in the Observer, which has been delayed, so we haven't read it yet.
No.
But yeah, it's WWE have been waiting 3 years for this. There's been so many false starts going back. It was about after a year, wasn't it, that all these rumors started to come out. A year and a bit into the suspension, whatever that was. It was not a suspension. Brooke Hogan told TMZ that Hulk Hogan was coming back for WrestleMania 33, and that was a done deal, she said. But that never happened. Hulk Hogan would be around for WrestleMania weekend. Velveteen Dream did his Hulk Hogan cosplay at the last...
I think you'll find it was Ricochet?
Yeah.
No, it was
King Velveteen Dream.
No, I know, but it was...
and Prince Puma, but it was it was both. It was when he's doing the Hulk Hogan ear thing.
No, it was only Prince Puma.
And they were Hulk Hogan and Velveteen Dream were joshing on Twitter as well.
It was only Prince Puma.
So yeah, this seems to have been in the plans for a while. Meltzer has said it's just a case of waiting on if sponsors are okay with it. Seems like the sponsors said 3 years seems like a good amount of time. So exactly on the third year, he's back.
Pretty much, yeah. Since he left, they've been planning for him to go, waiting for the day that he can come back into the fold. And Hogan has been saying in interviews himself, it's just we're just waiting for the right time. It's not a case of if, it's a case of when.
Brother.
And that when...
HH.
Much love, HH. And work yourself into a shoot, brother.
It's not how Twitter works.
I don't know. My father-in-law signs off text messages like their emails.
Sincerely.
Well, yeah, it'd be
all the best.
Thanks, comma, and he'll either write dad or his name.
So Hulk Hogan signs off all his tweets with HH, just in case you didn't know, because it's by him. The profile picture and the Twitter handle. The tick.
But, I mean, here's my stance on this. Not saying that my stance is right or wrong. It's just where I sort of fall in on this.
How you feel about it?
How I feel about it,
as a white man.
As a straight white male, him going back into the Hall of Fame is just, it's not a thing, because the Hall of Fame is not a real thing. It's PR nonsense, really. It's not a legit thing.
You pointed out Mike Tyson's in there.
Well, yeah.
He's a convicted rapist.
Exactly. China is not allowed into the Hall of Fame because Triple H is worried that if you Google China, or specifically, if my daughters Google China, they'll see what she did. And I'm like, if you Google Mike Tyson, you'll find out he was a convicted rapist. He's allowed in. If you Googled probably half of the people who are in the Hall of Fame, they've probably all done something wrong.
Yeah, so it's quite a motley bunch anyway, amongst of course some absolutely superb people. So it's like, whether he's in the... I guess, but the whole thing is, it's the perception, not what Hall of Fame actually is, but the perception of WWE honouring someone like this.
Yes. And so him going into the Hall of Fame is, just being reinstated not an issue. I suppose it depends on what role Hulk Hogan's going to be playing going forward. Is he going to be a company ambassador? Is that going to reflect poorly on the company, having someone who was... I mean, and it's not like this was... It's not like when Ultimate Warrior was doing all of his homophobic and racial slurs when he was doing his...
God, I forgot about that.
When he was doing his university tours and the awful things that man said.
A lot worse.
So, yeah, a lot worse. And in a much more public forum as well. But those weren't reported on quite as widely as Hulk Hogan's was. And because he's Hulk Hogan, he's one of the biggest names, if not the biggest name in wrestling history. That him then being kind of like on the forefront of a company, just does it reflect poorly on them to an outsider who'd be like, whoa, yeah, but wasn't that guy who said all those really bad things on that sex tape? I would, if it was me, I'd have probably lobbied for him just to go into the Hall of Fame and not really done anything else. But that's perhaps just me.
Yeah,
although I do believe in second chances. Third and fourth, wherever he's had.
Totally. Because everyone can change.
Exactly.
I'm a very different person than I was this morning.
Yeah.
I was hungry this morning.
Oh,
and now I've got a very different composition. I've just eaten. It was delicious.
Your lunch today smelt terrific.
It was really good. It was a curry.
It was amazing. It smelled like takeaway curry. It was that good.
So it is difficult with Hogan.
Where do you stand on it?
Where do I stand? So, from a viewer, like what I see as interesting programming, remove all the morality aside, I don't really care about Hulk Hogan. That ship has sailed for me personally, and I think his nostalgia performances, we've seen enough of them. Like, I'm not going to be sitting around going, man, they need to bring Hogan back for this feud. Oh, wouldn't a Hogan-Velveteen Dream partnership in NXT be good? No, it'd be terrible. Like, it would completely overshadow Dream.
I saw an amazing comment today. I believe it was from... I got sent it as a tweet, but I believe the idea came originally from What Culture, which is that Bobby Lashley's going to win the Universal Championship at SummerSlam, and Hogan's going to come out to endorse him.
Nice.
And that will be like the big Hogan apology, the big public apology for him.
Some of my best champions are Bobby Lashley. So, like, just from a viewer perspective, I don't really care to see him on TV. Not because I'm offended by him or anything, just because, like, I don't think it will make interesting television.
He can't add anything to the product.
Yeah. And I think adding him would actually take away a bit. I get that he's such a huge icon and probably the most recognisable wrestling star ever globally. But I just... So I just keep coming back to this in my head. That... Because originally, I think I lost sight of what he'd actually said. Recently, in the last couple of years, he only said the N-word. Not only, that is a big deal, of course. But then a lot of people have been reposting the full speech or monologue, promo, whatever he did on that sex tape.
Yeah.
And read it, it's like, because you said it's the fact they used the word, but people use that word and it's not, you can use that word, this is so sensitive. Rappers use that word is one way, but
Quentin Tarantino loves using that
exactly.
word.
But the
venom behind it.
Yeah, like the in context, that was not like my N-word, as Vince McMahon once famously said. It's really quite vitriolic and in a nasty way, which, and I get that this was a private conversation. So I'm also like, well, it shouldn't be out there in the first place, but it is out there. So
you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
Yeah, so it's an awful thing. But if he can really prove that he's changed, because there's so much just pomp and circumstance and false projected images around Hogan. That's been his gimmick for ever since he stopped wrestling, really, and during. Like, until... And this was essential... I'm effectively echoing what Titus and you, Dave, said. Like, as soon as they see something genuine to convince them that he's changed from what he said back in those videos, then maybe they'll reassess their own position. Yeah. But at the moment, I would be very hesitant to take Hogan at his word. I'm sure he's remorseful, but like whether he still feels... Whether he's remorseful because it's come out and he's sad and guilty, or whether he actually still holds those opinions is another matter.
Yeah.
Plus, I just don't think it brings anything to the product.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, that's it. Yeah, Gorilla Position made this point as well when they were having a discussion about this, and they were talking about how. Remember that they used to do those in-ring segments where you would get legends out to just before the Royal Rumble, like, oh, you've all been in Royal Rumbles. Like, what do you think? And you'd have Michaels and Ric Flair, and Michaels and Ric Flair are two people who can talk normally. They can just if you ask them to say something, they'll just say stuff. But Hogan automatically goes into promo mode. He goes into Hulk Hogan mode, and it doesn't really fit in today's style. He cuts 80s promos, which don't work in 2018. And so, yeah, when people were saying, oh, he could be the new SmackDown general manager, I was like, how awful would that be? Week in, week out, him coming and going, well, you know something, dude. I'm like, well, it's not 1988 anymore, Hogan. You can't be... that doesn't work. So, for me, he would add absolutely zero to the product.
Yeah, so it's thanks for sticking with us for 20 minutes of this topic. It is a difficult one, and... hopefully we haven't said anything stupid. I don't think we said anything too stupid.
I think we were okay. We told the line. We gave some opinions.
Yeah. They're not necessarily the right opinions.
As the title placard that just came up suggests, we are going to talk about some NXT spoilers. So if you don't want to know...
How's that going to work for podcast listeners?
Well,
they just hear the ding, ding, ding.
Oh, okay. Well, I was about to say I'm going to give people a warning anyway.
Okay.
We're about to talk about the NXT spoilers. They're going to be airing in the lead up to TakeOver Brooklyn 4. So if you don't want to hear those, skip ahead. There will be timestamps in the podcast description. There'll be timestamps on the YouTube description. So just skip ahead to either of one of those if you don't want to hear us talking about it. We're not going to bring it up again in other portions of this episode. So,
and you don't want to ruin CM Punk coming back like
no.
that for yourself.
And
it's
Oli,
really good surprise.
Ollie was very kind this morning. He texted me.
Oh, so wait, is this now we're in spoiler territory?
Not in spoiler territory just yet. So
okay.
Ollie texted me this morning saying hey, so there's an NXT spoiler in the news today. Do you not want to do it? And I was like, well, I've had a few people on Twitter already tell me anyway, so I already know what it
CM
is.
Punk returns.
Yes, CM Punk returns. So here it is. Now we're about to talk about spoilers. You've had so much warning now. You cannot.
No, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Now we're talking spoilers. So there was a big bit of news that came out. It's probably one of the biggest bits of news in NXT in quite a few months, really.
Oh, yeah.
I'd say this is absolutely massive.
It's huge.
Huge. Keith Lee debuted, and he has a match beating some enhancement talent.
Debuted in a squash match.
Exactly. So, I mean, the future of NXT is here.
Nothing stellar. Nothing bad either. That's solid.
It's the NXT way sometimes. In fact, I'd argue probably most of the time. The only time I could think it hasn't been that really was
Ricochet
and EC3 where they put into that ladder match. Otherwise, it's just War Raiders. Do some squash matches.
Oh, the we signed too many people last month match.
Yeah.
5 stars according to Meltzer.
Absolutely. Kona Reeves. Just do squash matches.
Yeah.
You just go through enhancement talent until you get to a storyline, until they can find a storyline for you.
I would say that's I love Triple H's mentality and the booking of NXT to replicate those territory days where TV was just squash matches to build up guys, build into the big eventual pay-per-view. But this is the one bit where I'm a bit add in something else now, please.
Yeah, a little bit of salt and pepper into that, please. But really, the big news is that we have a new NXT champion. So, on an episode that's going to air next week...
Oh, is that next week?
It's next week, yeah, because they've been advertising it now for the past 3 or 4 weeks. It's going to be Tommaso Ciampa versus Aleister Black for the NXT Championship. During the match, there's a ref bump. Johnny Gargano runs down and he starts beating up both men. He doesn't attack just Ciampa, he attacks Black as well because he's on this bit of a rampage at the moment. He's kind of it's going to become unhinged since his loss at Chicago. And he, through that, Tommaso Ciampa wins and is your new NXT champion. And in the following weeks, he'll come out and he cuts a promo. Aleister Black interrupts him. Gargano again runs out and just starts attacking Tommaso Ciampa. Aleister Black gives him the black mass. That's going to lead to an Aleister Black versus Johnny Gargano match that goes to a no contest through Tommaso Ciampa interference. And William Regal books the 3 of them in a triple threat match for the NXT Championship at Brooklyn 4, which is in the middle of August. And it's funny as well because that was actually a lot of people's prediction coming out of Chicago, was that it was going to be the 3 of them fighting for the championship, but with Aleister remaining champ. So it's really interesting. That is how it played out. And I'm kind of glad that it's almost played out this way, because my reservation behind that idea initially was that, well, Alistair will be the odd man out in that, because that feels like it's still the feud between Gargano and Ciampa, and Alistair Black's there going like, but I'm the champion though. But now he has a legitimate grievance to be in here as well, because he's going back for his title.
It's huge to see the NXT title change hands on a TV episode. It rarely changes hands at takeovers. The last one, I guess, was when Samoa Joe and Nakamura hot potatoed it for a few months.
Yeah, it did, on house
That was
shows.
2 years ago.
Yeah,
now.
absolutely.
I think this is a really exciting way to take the main event scene in NXT. We both loved Gargano Ciampa 1.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. I loved the second round more.
Mm-hmm.
Were you?
I was
agree?
in agreement, yeah.
And we were both like, after the first one, we were like, yeah, but let's hold off on the second match for a while. But the second match happened, and we were like, no, okay, I'm fine for them to have a third singles match. But now I love it when NXT, or like any wrestling promotion, say, you want this? Well, you're just going to have to wait for it a bit longer. In the meantime, here's an equally awesome thing.
Yeah.
So it's the zig when you thought they were going to zag, but the zig is just as narratively satisfying. And now this will really help build another Ciampa Gargano match.
Yeah.
I mean, I see that, and I think it makes sense for Ciampa to retain.
During the triple threat match.
Yeah, but Gargano doesn't get pinned, and then Gargano and Ciampa can have that huge match to pay it all
It's
off.
a real shame for Alistair Black, though, I feel.
He's been... Yeah.
He won the belt from Almas at the TakeOver show in January?
Which was a shock. Because Gargano Almas was January.
It was the WrestleMania one. Sorry, I do apologise. It was the WrestleMania to the New Orleans show.
Yeah.
So he won the title there. Then he's defended it against Lars Sullivan at Chicago in a match that wasn't very good. Lars Sullivan wasn't really the right guy for him to be facing first time round.
Not good for NXT main event level.
Yes,
it was so much better than a lot of the stuff WWE put out that weekend.
Yes, but it was also a feud that was kind of like put together in the last week or so.
Yeah.
Didn't really have a lot of heat going into it because they were putting so much focus on the Ciampa Gargano stuff. And then here he is, and this is kind of like his second title defense that he's had as champion, and he's lost it. And Ciampa put up a tweet like earlier this month that had a picture of Aleister Black with the NXT Championship, and he just put up the post like, Siri, show me transitional champion. And I was like, that's such a wonderful dig. And it could be proved correct, really, because Black has felt like a transitional champion to Ciampa getting it.
Ciampa, went through a good period where he was actively making me dislike him on Twitter, where he would give away Infinity War spoilers. I was like, this is genuine heel heat. But he's gone back to, no, you're a really good heel. I like you for being such a good heel. That's such a good tweet.
So funny.
Other one he made about, hey, you'll finally get to main event a takeover now, Aleister Black, with fighting me.
Yeah.
But just Ciampa's been something else.
He really has. And I think that's going to be an absolutely corking main event as well, because there is a lot of story going into it. It's obviously with Ciampa and Gargano, but now Aleister Black pissed off that he wants to win his belt. He has his grievances with Ciampa, but he hates Gargano as well because Gargano cost him the title. And they were doing some really good backstage stuff with Ciampa, with Gargano and Black as well, which I've been playing over the last few weeks. So this feels like it's been a nice long build up to this match. So actually, there's some other good stuff on the card as well. Mustache Mountain are going to be going back for their NXT Tag Team Championships from the Undisputed Era.
Yep, can't wait for that. Their first match was amazing.
And their second match was on NXT TV, where the Undisputed Era won back the belt, was exceptional. It was so good. It was a wonderful story that was being told. Tyler Bate selling throughout that match. And he wasn't even, he was on the apron selling throughout. Oh, it was wonderful. You've also got Shayna Baszler against Kairi Sane, a rematch from the Mae Young Classic Finals last year.
Which Sane won,
exactly, for the NXT Women's Championship. Adam Cole is defending his... is defending his North American Championship against Ricochet, which, I mean...
Oh,
God, I'm sure that won't be good at all. No, it'll be absolutely amazing.
High spots. No psychology. I can't wait.
And also on the card is going to be EC3 versus Velveteen Dream. In Velveteen Dream's, takeover, put you over match.
That is a card where it's just like every single person on that show is going to try and steal it.
It's
going to be mass theft.
It's going to be mass theft throughout. Oh, the other big thing from the tapings that came out, Cassius Ohno won a match.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's always nice to see.
And I think other things happened. Tainara Tainara Conti, I think that's how you say it, or Tainara Conti. I think I said the same thing twice. She qualified for the Mae Young Classic too. And they've announced quite a few of the names. Deonna Purrazzo is going to be in there with Io Shirai. And, of course, the returning... what's her chops? Caitlin.
Yeah. Well,
Celeste Bonin.
Should we get on with some crap gimmicks?
It's time for...
Sorry, I'm still thinking about Caitlin. Now go for it. Now go for it.
So, if you want to submit your crap gimmick suggestion, email me, luke@wrestletalk.com. But bearing in mind, I do have a backlog of about 90 to 100 at the moment, so we're working our way through them very, very slowly. This one comes in from Michael Noonan, who emails in to suggest the Road Workers. They're a tag team consisting of Road Worker Dave and Apprentice Ben.
Nice.
Road Worker Dave does very little work in the duo, leaving it all for his apprentice to do. The Road Workers come down to the ring in high-vis gear and hard hats. The entrance music is jackhammers, reversing lorry sounds, diesel engines, and rollers.
Oh, that's good.
Their tag team finisher is the double jackhammer, which obviously works as a pun, but I was trying to think of it in my head. I don't know how that would work.
So what's a jackhammer again?
Jackhammer is when you get them for a
it's
suplex.
Goldberg's finish, yeah. Well, they just both do a double suplex and then kind of...
Because then you've both got to turn into the...
You both turn and land on top of them, yeah, sure.
You'd all just land in a car crash pile. So it's the double jackhammer. The promos are all cut by Dave while he makes the apprentice stand there silent. And in their pre-taped promos, it's always from a van or on the work sites. In promos, they say they will asphalt their opponents. I prefer kick their asphalt. And when opponents make a bad joke, they say that is terrible. As in terrible. So, and that is from, amazingly, someone called Joe Business.
You just said it was from Michael Noonan.
Oh, no, Joe... yes, because Joe Business has got the next one. Do apologise. That's from Michael Noonan.
Michael, love it. Your puns need work. Terrible is just straight up terrible.
That is terrible.
But I like everything else. I think there's so much scope for road workers in there. The 2x4... like just web stop signs underneath the ring.
Absolutely.
And then they can kind of like, maybe there's a bit where there's another match going on in the crap gimmick roster and someone's coming out for their... We could have a whole episode, a whole Monday night crap based around this, and where the road workers are doing work on the entrance ramp. So everyone has to go round them to get to the ring.
I'm almost thinking as well, putting up like the temporary traffic lights and things like that. I'm almost thinking as well, because this is a pun on the Road Warriors.
Yes.
You do all of it like so. The high vis jackets have got spikes on them that they then have to take off.
This is good. This is
good.
And I think Dave, who is the guy in control, right, when he's on the apron in the tag match, should just be having a cup of tea.
Oh, nice brew, yeah, really good.
That's good, Michael. I like that. And we haven't got many tag teams, it feels. It'd be good to bolster the crap gimmick wrestling tag division.
But I do want to present to you, Joe Business has got one that isn't too dissimilar.
Joe Business sounds like a gimmick in itself.
He signs off his emails with, "There's no business like Joe Business."
Oh,
that's very good.
Is that genuinely what he did?
Yeah.
You should sign him straight up. We're signing you, Joe Business, not your gimmick.
But Joe Business
is... Like such a generic name. Who was that guy with the briefcase? I don't know, Joe Business?
It's Joey Jojo Jr. Shabadoo. So Joe Business has suggested Big Gary Garage, who is a 5'8" absolute brickhouse hailing from Essex, England, and wearing his iconic oil-stained overalls, bald head, and English flag tattoos. Wonder where he fell in the referendum. Gary travels everywhere on the back of one of those slidey skateboard things the mechanics use to go under cars. He always keeps his trusty metal handheld toolbox, and you'll see why in a minute. He is always asking people if they need things fixing, and he'll do them a good price, regardless if they are a heel or a face. But beware, if you reject his offer, he will at some point during the event attack you with his many weapons from the toolbox, clonk you over the head with a wrench, jab you with one of his Allen keys, or simply cover you in slippery oil. If he ever is approached by a referee, he cleverly stashes his weapons away, and all the referee finds is just a sandwich for lunch that his mum made him, which he takes out and devilishly eats. It's mainly just ham. It's basically just cheese and pickle. During the match, he is always bad-mouthing his opponents as if they are a faulty car, with lines such as, this is going to need replacing, as he concentrates on working over the arm, or this is going to cost you extra, as he baseball slides the opponents on the outside. His signature moves are essentially you'll like this. His signature move is essentially a double nipple cripple that he calls lefty loosey righty tighty. Thanks, guys. Absolutely love the show. Shout out to my girlfriend Fee and her sister Steph, and that is from Joe Business.
Hi, Fee and Steph.
Hi, Fee and Steph.
I really like that. It's a tough week though, because
Road Workers.
So there's a lot of good stuff in that. I really like the trash talking. And Big Gary Garage. That's just a great name.
BGG.
Yeah, BGG. And just the idea of him walking around in the mechanics with the big wrench and stuff.
I also like the idea of jabbing people with Allen keys.
Yeah, that was so petty, and you're just like an annoying little.
It's not going to hurt. It's,
Like when he's taking off the to expose the turnbuckle. Maybe he has to find the right Allen key. He can never find the right one.
Yeah.
I like that. But I'm sure there's. Do you like Road Workers more?
I do. Well, sometimes we can sign multiple people.
No, that's not happened.
I know.
It's one a week.
I'm trying to petition that we do, though, because some of these are very, very good.
You just don't like rules, do you? That is the basis for everything.
I also, we put out the call before. We need more baby faces. We always get heel submissions in. But speaking of which, we got
heel submissions.
Yeah, we've got another
the ankle hook.
Yeah, exactly. We've got another heel submission right here. This one from Dan Summers, the mathematician, a sneering heel who wears a Ric Flair style robe to the ring, emblazoned with mathematical symbols instead of abstract designs. He works a slow, efficient, and some might say methodical style in the ring, making sure he pins his opponent often. He always counts along with the referee every chance he gets, and often chastises the official after every 2 count with the cries of "What comes after 2?" His finishing move is the divide by 0, which is a bow and arrow log where he attempts to stretch his opponent into the shape of a 0. He is also known for using brass knuckles in the shape of a protractor and a meter stick to beat his opponents down. His promos are laden with verbiage such as "I'm so good, I make dividing by 0 possible. The minute we step in the ring, I've already counted you out. And it doesn't matter how much you think you're worth, the bigger the number, the smaller its reciprocal, and you'll be upside down tapping out before you know it. Hope you enjoy Luke and Ollie. Once I'm done with this PhD school in maths, big surprise. Have some money, I'm gonna jump in on the Patreon. So that was from Dan Summers.
Whoa, a PhD in maths, as we say. If we just translate that into British English,
with the plural on the end, maths. Yeah, man, PhD in maths. That's impressive.
He must know some great numbers.
I sucked at maths as a kid.
Do you know why divide by 0 is funny?
Because you cannot divide by 0. Yeah.
Apart from Chuck Norris.
I'm about the only one thing I can remember. Can't remember anything about trigonometry or anything like that. Sin, cos, and tan. No idea.
You remembering those things? They're just buttons on a calculator.
I don't know what they do though.
My maths teacher back at school used to have a great way of just remembering what the how you work out the length of a hypotenuse was on a triangle, a right-angled triangle. And he said, "You're taking the pith." Pythagoras theorem.
Lovely.
The pith. So yeah.
My uncle, his husband is someone he's connected via family to the man who was behind some of those mathematical equations.
You've told me about that. That's fascinating.
There's an area in across the world that is named after their family.
Because I just assumed everything was made by Greeks. But no, stuff like that need calculators to be dealt with is more recent fare. So, sorry, we are getting away from your very well thought out proposal, Dan. I, again, really like it, but we just had Prof Wrestler come through.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's quite similar. I mean, maybe there's a stable here of really academic-based
yes, like
wrestlers.
Him and Prof Wrestler would be a dastardly heel tag team.
Yeah, kind of like a right to censor.
Oh, we need now as an English teacher, because then you've got all of your you've got English, maths, and science then.
Yeah, and then if we... For school holidays, when Crap Gimmick Wrestling run the holiday camps, the kids don't like. You shouldn't be on your school holidays.
Where's your homework?
Maths. And
handing out textbooks to the kids at the ringside.
Initially, I thought the 2 count thing would be annoying, but the more I think about it, I think the maths professor. Is he just called maths professor?
The mathematician.
So he needs a name as well. So the mathematician would be the nickname, but then he needs an actual stupid crap name, which is a bad pun. So he'll pin 1, 2, kick out, but then the mathematician should stand up and keep going 3, 4, 5, but angrily count at the crowd.
And it makes me think that I have till 5 referee.
Yes, yeah. So, I mean, all very good, strong week, but wow, did not Joe Business. That's the only name. Michael Noonan for me. I love Road Workers.
I'm fully behind the Road Workers as well. It really made me chuckle when I read it and put it in here. It's good work. Good work.
We're signing you.
And if you want to send in a mailbag question, all you have to do is become one of our pledge hammers by pledging on Patreon at any dollar amount. And you can send in your questions via the awesome community that we've got over there. Just let me know it's a mailbag question and I'll add it in. This one comes in from Jared Conister, who asks, can you imagine the ramifications if Daniel Bryan convinced WWE to sign him to a non-exclusive contract?
If we're taking that as a serious starting point, the ramifications would be huge, because anyone above Daniel Bryan on the main roster right now would want the same thing, to work elsewhere and drive up their prices. It's a way to earn more money. I'm not saying everyone would jump at that. You've got company people through and through, like John
Randy
Cena.
Orton wouldn't. That would be extra work for him.
Randy Orton. But like your Matt Hardys, your Jeffs, that would give scope for Rey Mysterio to come in and
Seth
still
Rollins,
do all these indie spots.
Exactly. It could be one of those things now. And also for WWE to try and attract other people in, saying, like, we're not signing you to an exclusive contract. It's we're bringing Kenny Omega for a one-shot deal. I mean, I've always thought that WWE would be better off if they did things like that, just bringing people in for one shows. When they did it with Jushin Thunder Liger for NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, the original Brooklyn, in fact, when he wrestled Tyler Breeze. What a great deal that was, because that was one of the things you're like, man, it's Jushin Thunder Liger in a WWE ring.
Different time.
And a different brand.
2 years ago, but they've stopped it now as well. I guess you've got the Mae Young Classic. It's just, that was around the same time as the first Cruiserweight Classic in 2016.
It was before that. It was well before that.
Was it well before that?
Yeah, it was 2 years before that. It was like 4 years ago.
Well, that was like the start of a mindset. And then that mindset, I think, was killed off by Zack Sabre Jr. and Kota Ibushi not signing with WWE when they were originally meant to win the whole Cruiserweight Classic.
The final was meant to be Ibushi versus Zack Sabre Jr. and it ended up being TJP versus... I can't remember who it was now.
And it's like, because Sabre Jr. and Ibushi were just like, this was fun, but we can have a lot more fun and freedom in Japan.
I'm off to New Japan. I want to just go tap out and stretch out everyone that's over there, if you don't mind.
And that's worked out pretty damn well for them. It will be a fascinating thing. I can never see WWE doing it, though. But there is a business argument to be made. But just like continuity-wise, WWE would have to acknowledge the existence of other wrestling companies. And I know they do. They'll say, like, so-and-so have won IWGP Tag Team Championships in Japan. Like, these wrestling companies that they refer to are never, like, definitive things. They're just, like, in Japan or over there.
Europe.
Yeah. So, I think WWE prefer it in their universe to pretend like they're the only wrestling. I disagree with that, but I can see the argument for them wanting to do it.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's one of those things as well, it'll be always that, I wonder what will happen when Triple H takes over, whether he'll introduce a different mindset with his team, because it won't be the same holdover. Like, I doubt Michael Hayes will still be there. I doubt Kevin Dunn will still be there when Triple H takes over, because he's already building up his crew. And so he's going to use them instead, and whether they're going to introduce a new mindset. But it remains to be seen. I found it really funny, actually. My favourite news story of the week, I know we didn't cover it, was that after Extreme Rules, and everyone thought it was a bad show, all the comments were just like, Vince McMahon just needs to go. Vince McMahon is such a problem. Can't wait to Vince retire. Can't wait for Triple H to take over. It's going to be a such much better show. And then it turns out that McMahon wasn't there, and it was a Triple H show, and everyone was like, oh, okay, maybe. Yeah. But then everyone just made the jokes of like, well, that's why Roman Reigns lost then.
Yeah. But it was probably Road Dogg.
Yeah, Road Dogg's so bad. SmackDown's awesome at the moment. Cameron Sykes asks, if you could buy any wrestling t-shirt from the past, what would it be and why? I already know which one I'm going to pick.
You go first, then.
The APA's Always Pounding Ass t-shirt.
I was going to go a similar crappy wrestling t-shirt route, yeah.
Because the APA Bar and Grill Always Pounding Ass is such a, not thought out t-shirt. And then printed it, as soon as someone went, oh, yeah, no, that doesn't really work, does it? Especially when it's JBO. I'm not gay. I don't like men. Then, you take it away and be like, no, let's not sell that anymore.
No, I think they did know. There's a lot of Attitude Era shirts that are so explicitly sexual.
But on purpose, though.
I think that was on purpose.
Like when Val Venus had his t-shirt that was written in cum, that was very much purposefully done.
Ejaculate.
Yes.
I haven't really got an answer to this. I did 316. How generic's that? I haven't got one.
Actually, I tell you what, I remember I did like the DX like hockey jersey one that they had. That
I
was
never
really,
had that.
Yeah, I really liked that. Like Suck It in '69 or whatever it was.
Oh,
Like,
that one. So I saw that on a trip to my nan's as a kid once in a joke shop, and you didn't see wrestling merchandise just around.
I like it's in a
those
joke shop.
days. Yeah, it was in a joke shop in Margate, and I was like, how much is that? £40.
Oh, but which is a lot of money because this has been like 98, 99.
Yeah, well, I guess it's imported merch.
That's like 250 quid now.
Something like that. And I was just
Brexit?
like, I need it. And my mum and dad were like, no, it's too big for you. It's not the right size anyway. And I was like, I want it. I'll grow into it. And they didn't. Oh,
Do you
man.
think you would have grown into it?
Yeah, well, eventually. I'm an adult now. Yeah, wow. Yeah, well, it would have been that one. You've unlocked a world of like, I didn't get the birthday present I wanted.
Yeah.
Christmas present was incorrect.
You are welcome.
Pain there.
And our final mailbag question comes in from Mason, who has written, as a big fan of the Fashion Police, I was disappointed to hear of Fandango's injury. I got to thinking that since nothing will get done with Tyler as a single star, maybe it's a good idea for him to team up with someone else. I think some funny little skits of Tyler Breeze being enamored with how glorious Bobby Roode is and them eventually teaming would be really entertaining. It would allow Tyler to be taken a little more seriously and for Bobby to show a little more character. Then when Fandango returns, they could be a 3-man team. In my opinion, that could be quite charming and funny. Thoughts on a 3-man team of Roode, Breeze and Fandango?
No. I liked it all. I think it's quite cute to team up Bobby and Tyler, but only as like a few. There's so much more potential in Roode, and I'm hoping with this heel turn that we speculate is going to happen, he'll be elevated to an upper mid-card main event level.
Yeah, I
but
completely agree.
that is a hell of a long shot.
Absolutely, and I've said with Tyler Breeze, like I'd really like the Fashion Police, and I think the Fashion Police is a really fun gimmick. But if Fandango is going to be out for quite some time, I'd love to see Tyler go back to his Prince Pretty gimmick. It's, doing that on 205 Live would probably be his best shot. I think he'd get some really good stuff. Because I'm missing Tyler Breeze as a wrestler, because he's such a good worker, and I'd really like to see him do some more stuff.
But we all know he'll be moved to SmackDown, and it'll be Tyler and Ty.
Is that what it's going to be?
Well, I'm sure Vince will go, whose name's like that?
Yeah.
Ty Dillinger.
Also, I mean, they need him on Raw so we can job out to Mojo Rawley.
Oh, yeah. Maybe they'll make a team. I don't know what you do with Ty. Sorry, Tyler. Send him back to NXT, to be honest.
Or 205 Live. That would be the worst thing for him. Do you want to close out the show? Because that's our last question.
Of course. That's all we've got time for today. Please click the videos that have just appeared on our laps to catch up with the latest WrestleTalk stuff. And this button right here that will subscribe you to the iTunes version of this show on podcast form with exclusive intros and outros. It's totally free. I've been Ollie Davis. This has been Luke Owen. And that was Rambling.